Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Well, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Highly uncircumcised.
Yes, it is. And I have a highly uncircumcised conversation because we have said we're committed to having the tough discussions. And even though initially I didn't want to talk about this, I need to continue the discussion because I think this is important.
So I have to let everybody know that I'm literally scared right now because Nicole has in no way, shape, or form discussed with me before hitting record what we are talking about. So you might get to see a blindsided Mike look in a second here.
No, you won't be blindsided. We have actually already talked about this a lot, and we did one episode about it, and it was a COVID one. So
Oh,
last week,
COVID.
but I want to take it. We didn't really discuss vaccination a lot. We talked about the statistical data about it, right? Data. Um, but we really didn't say our opinions much. You said you got yours and you're thinking maybe you didn't need to, but whatever. And I was saying that you had convinced me prior to that again, you can go back and watch this episode's called All Things COVID and listen to the podcast that we reference in that episode. But even before Mike and I did this episode, we had our own discussion where we were yelling at each other about COVID and vaccines. But at the end of the discussion, he had convinced me. He said, when you live in a society and these are the rules of society, and I was like, you know what, you're right. Like, if that's what society wants, I'll get the vaccination, right? So then I listened to that podcast, which I shared in the last one, which talks about the absolute efficacy of the vaccines being 1% and less than 1%, depending on which one you get, which is shite. But also, I just wanted to do more of my own research to understand. And so I've been reading a lot on the CDC website, the website that we use for the science. Like, I believe in science. I trust science, everybody, right? So I'm like, all right, let me go review the science. And I can tell you I got caught up right here. And actually, I can show you. Let me screen share this for you. This is directly from the CDC website. Am I sharing the wrong one? Yeah, I don't want that one. This one. So, here it is. This is CDC. This is talking about vaccine breakthrough case investigation and reporting. And down here is where I got caught up. Identifying and investigating hospitalized or fatal vaccine breakthrough cases. As of May 1st, 2021, that's this month, that's a few weeks ago, CDC transitioned from monitoring all reported vaccine breakthrough cases to focus on identifying and investigating only hospitalized or fatal cases due to any cause. And then they say this shift will help maximize the quality of the data, but I just don't understand that at all. Honestly, how does it maximize the quality of the data? Can you see where my question lies here, Michael Moore?
I can. And before we really go down the rabbit hole here, I have to tell you this story. This story is just hilarious based on you wanting to talk about this today.
Okay.
For the listeners, Nicole, you and I didn't talk at all yesterday, right? So we made no communications to one another, okay? Because I just want everybody.
I get tired of talking to you all the time.
I literally was like, I hope Nicole doesn't call or text me. I don't want to hear from her. I don't want to see her. I'm done. So yeah, we didn't talk at all. So I think this is highly ironic on highly uncircumcised. So I decided to go play a little bit yesterday, play a little poker.
For those new to us, we met and we've been friends forever. We met at the poker table.
Yes, we're poker buddies on steroids. the friendship is on steroids, not us. We're not on. Well, she might be. She's super strong, but I don't.
Oh my God! Tell your story.
Anyway, long story short, this guy is sitting next to me at the table, and if you haven't seen the tables lately, they have green glass partitions up between the people, and you have to wear a mask. Okay. And some of the dealers are avid about telling people like cover your entire face because a lot of times guys want to pull it down below their nose and all that to just get one by you. And anyway, this guy next to me had his down right about here, so his whole nose was exposed. And the dealer, who you know very well, who shall remain nameless, told him, pull your mask up. And he was like, oh, okay, okay, okay. And he pulled it up and then pulled it right back down. And she said, pull your mask up. And same thing happened. So then she calls over a floor man, who you know very well as well. And the floor man, yes.
Was it Star?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But whispering, it doesn't help.
Oh, they can hear that? Okay, just check.
Yeah, they can hear that.
Okay.
Anyway, the long and the short of it is this guy was just super belligerent about not wearing his mask, and the floor people actually asked him to leave the casino. Well, the interesting part about it was a guy across the table told him, like, stop berating the dealer over this. This is casino policy and so forth and so on. And I'm sitting directly next to him, and I said, bro, just pull up your mask so we can keep playing. And because I know this guy a little bit, and I've never seen him act this way, but he went nuts. He got up in the middle of the casino, Nicole, in the middle of the casino, and he yells out over and over and over, COVID is over. COVID is over. Why are we doing this? He went nuts. And I was just like,
he's not wrong, but okay.
I told him, and I kind of wanted to give him a hug. I was like, dude, I fully agree with you. And not only do I agree with you, like I've had COVID and I'm vaccinated, so I'm not really worried about getting it again. And if I get it again, I think my body is smart enough to know how to fight it off. But you're in a private card club and they have rules. So just follow the rules so we can play some poker and not deal with this crap on a Sunday afternoon. It's a beautiful day. Why are you going ballistic? He went nuts. I just had to tell you that story because I had no idea this COVID conversation was coming. And I just thought that was so funny because I was just like, people are so, and I told him, I said, you know what, just because I like you, we're going to go ahead and take the mask off on June 15th. Okay. I'm going to make sure that happens for you. I mean, that happens to be the date they've sort of given, but anyway.
Are the casinos allowing it on June 15th? A lot of businesses are still saying they're going to keep it.
I have no idea. I talked to a floor person the other day just to find out where things were at, but it's so dumb. They wipe the stations after every person gets up. It's like, first of all, they know COVID really doesn't live on surfaces, and I'm just like, do you guys realize how stupid this whole thing has been handled? So I actually fully agreed with this guy. The only thing I didn't like was just the fact that he was yelling at other players and he was yelling at the dealer, and it didn't make any sense because he's smart enough to know, because I know he's an intelligent guy, that not one of us makes any one of the decisions. So what did he think he was going to accomplish that day besides getting kicked out, which he did?
Nothing. He snapped.
He just wanted to vent.
Well, I don't think he wanted to. He probably couldn't help himself. There's a lot of people out there who have hidden, we had to quarantine anyways, but they literally hid and they literally tried not to talk to me because they feel, which I completely understand, that none of this makes sense. And so I think so he finally broke down, and that was his breakdown.
And I will tell you this: he's not even he's not American. I will not give the country of origin just because I don't want to, people who know us and all of that kind of stuff that actually still play poker, like, to single him out. But he was just like, California is stupid, America's dumb. Why is this still going on? And I was like, amen. Amen, brother. He was talking about businesses going out of business, and I've known a couple people that have 100%. Had like super, super, super tough times and are hopefully bouncing back. But I went out to dinner the other night with a friend and noticed that a restaurant that we both love had closed. And I was just like, can you believe this? Like this has literally been here for 20 years or more probably. And it's just gone. It's just gone. So anyway, that was all. Just wanted to let you know, like, this has been a COVID 24 hours for me.
Well, and like I say, he had to break down. I think the thing that happened is that, a lot of us lost our livelihood. I lost my job. I could go back now. I mean, literally just now it's starting to really open up again. But for me, I mean, I don't say luckily, but for me, I'd wanted to do something else for a long time anyway. So it gave me the initiative. It gave me that push to do it. So I used my time to reinvent myself. I'm still working on that. For a lot of people, maybe they didn't want to reinvent themselves and they lost everything and they can't quite understand how to get that back. They want to go back to where they were and they can't. And that's huge for people. And then especially when they don't agree with the way the data is being portrayed on the media and or the treatment of the entire issue, to them, like me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so they can't wrap their whole brain around that. And so they just want to scream into the world, like, what the hell is happening? But I wanted to, and I understand them. Like, I'm not going to scream to the world. Like, you, again, when you live in a society, you live by the general pervasive rules that you have. We just have to make sure that those rules actually make sense. And that's where I am with this. And so then talking about vaccination. So that sentence that I read to you, do you understand why I question it? Do I need to read it again? Should I go back to it?
You can read it again for sure.
Let me go back to it and talk about this really quick.
By the way, I also reinvented myself over this time period, but I came out looking the same. So
I have so much stuff open here. Hold on here. You guys can see all my, there's our podcast. No. Oh my God. I don't know where to, hold on. Let me find it. Let me come back to us and let me find it. This is like, how do old people use Zoom? Like, hold on. I got it here.
Don't call me old again. Thank you.
I was talking about myself.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's okay, right? Somehow I shut it. Oh, I
just
shut
give it
this.
To me off the top of your head.
Anyways, I shut this stupid page. So, yeah, the point is that they are now changing the data analysis, the way they analyze. So it used to be, when you think about COVID, what happened when we found out we had COVID, right? They told everybody, get tested, everybody get tested, and everybody did. We flocked in groves to get tested. And by the PCR test, which by the way has a number of its own issues, but you can do your own.
The PCR is the cheek swab, right?
It's yeah, or I think PCR can be either. I think it can be the nasal or the cheek. I think it can be both.
Oh, I thought the nasal was highly accurate.
No, but I don't want to get into data analysis about PCR again. I'm not the researcher, but I listen to people who are. So they told us in the beginning, right? Everybody get tested, and everybody did. And we went out in droves and we found out that there's a large percentage of people who are infected, but a large percent of those people who are infected are, number one, asymptomatic, which means they're not even sick. And number two, lightly have cold symptoms, right? Like lightly sick, not dying, not, and then of course there are the ones that are hospitalized that have, lung issues and respiratory issues. And then of course there's ones that died. But we tested for everything. And the infectious rate was anybody who was infected, even if you're asymptomatic. And even if this test was wrong, but again, that's questioning the test. Now, once you've got the vaccine, they have now, as of May 1st, changed the vernacular for what infection means. Now, they are not going to say that you were infected if you are asymptomatic or if you're not hospitalized, if you just have cold symptoms. The only way they're going to call it a breakthrough case, the only way they're going to say you actually got COVID after you got the vaccine is if you end up in the hospital and or dead.
So this only applies to people after the vaccination?
No, it applies to both because it's changing. It's manipulating the data is what it's doing. It's manipulating the data to show that the vaccination is more efficient than it actually is. Because what they're doing is they're saying infectious rates of everybody. So if I'm not vaccinated and somehow I go get tested, which I don't if I'm not sick, but somehow I go get tested and I find out I have asymptomatic COVID and I'm not vaccinated, that's called an infection. But if I'm vaccinated and I go to the hospital for something and they test me and I have COVID, but I'm asymptomatic, that is not called COVID because you're vaccinated, because they want to prove the efficacy of vaccinations and raise the efficiency rate. And this was right there on the CDC website. And it blows my freaking mind. And this is why I question everything. It's just, it's right there in plain sight. But if you don't read it, you can almost just pass right on by. And we all do.
So your question to me was, what do I think about that?
Does it give you pause like it does to me?
Oh, yes. The short answer is yes. It certainly gives me pause. Again, I've already done the vaccination process.
Right. I'm not, and I'm not against somebody getting vaccinated. I'm to me, it's about questioning the way the entire process is being treated and disseminated.
Right, which is what I was going to kind of touch on. Oddly enough, I don't think that first of all, I know for a fact that I didn't give enough thought to getting vaccinated or not. And the reason I know I didn't give enough thought to it was because after I became fully vaccinated, I literally asked myself, like, wait, why did I get vaccinated? Like, I had COVID. Like, I don't.
Well, and natural immunity is supposed to be lifelong, right?
Well, no. So that was a big reason why I did get vaccinated. I was actually going to that right now. They actually said around the time when I was getting vaccinated, which would have been late February, I think I took my first shot and my second shot was like mid-March. They were saying that your natural immunity lasts for somewhere between 6 months to a year, and that you were going to need a vaccine anyway.
I don't understand. Okay, again, I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand that. Like, if this is an actual disease, like you think about chickenpox, mumps, measles, whatever, right? When you get this major virus, once you get it, you never get it again. There's no person that I know of in real life who gets like the measles, really gets it, not vaccinated, gets it, and then gets it again, right? Like, we all used to get chickenpox when we were little, right? And then we never get it again.
Well, so isn't shingles the adult version of chickenpox?
That's a different virus, and that's later in life when there's another question about that in vaccines. But yeah, and that's if you had the chickenpox, yes, later in life you could get shingles. But it's not the same, virus, but you can only get it if you'd had chickenpox.
Well, though, there's been documented cases of reinfection with COVID, though, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
honestly.
there's definitely been documented cases, and it's not a high percentage, don't get me wrong, but there have been documented cases of reinfection.
Yeah, and there's that's the thing that I just, so I told you in the beginning is I wanted to do more research about the vaccines, and we talked about this in our last COVID episode, that if you question at all any of it, you're automatically looked at as an anti-vaxxer. And I am not an anti-vaxxer, but I am a questioner in all things in life. I just have been. Have you ever read the book, The Four Tendencies? I forgot her name, but anyway, she talks about there's 4 types of people, and it's like obeyer, obliger, questioner, and rebel. And understanding your tendency helps you understand how you relate to people and how you relate to life, and helps you understand like why some people you just don't get along with at all, right? And I am, according to the book, I'm a rebel, which is, I'm like, wow, really? Am I that much? But I'm a lot, I know. But I think my guess is I straddle the line between questioner and rebel. And I've always been a questioner my entire life. I mean, I grew up in freaking private school, Catholic school. And I'm always like, why? And you don't ask why in Catholic school, right? Just a faith. And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, why? So I always question everything. And all of that is to say, I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm not against science. Sometimes people say, if you ask a question about the vaccine, oh, you're not pro-science. I am reading the fucking science right from the website, right? And it's not leading me to the same conclusion that I'm hearing. And it's making me question what's actually happening. If they have to now, why do they have to like they're running an experiment basically right now, right? We have to, because we had no former data on COVID. So we had to run this experiment of, just take the vaccine and we all hope it works. But mid-experiment, they're changing the statistical model, right? They're saying now we're not going to call this an infection unless you're hospitalized or dead. I mean, if they had that statistical model from the beginning where it's not considered an infection until you're hospitalized or dead, there wouldn't even been a pandemic, right? The infection rate would have been nothing compared to what it is for all these asymptomatic people who are infected, and all these people who are slightly sick who are infected. So to
Well,
me, it's just I don't understand how this science is okay.
I don't necessarily know that I agree with you saying or opining that there would not have been a pandemic. I
Well,
think that
consider
at the
why was
rates,
there a pandemic, right? Because the
well,
infection
because of
seemed
the
like it was
rates,
out of control, right?
well, at the
But
rates that people were dying, right? So
again, we can go
the
back
flu
to the
doesn't hold a candle to COVID. I mean,
okay. Again, though, we can go back to the last COVID episode and look at the actual data models of and how they are misconstruing the things. So, like the flu, again, is talking about death rates and infectious rates compared to an entire population because it's over 2 years old. Whereas COVID, and again, this is on that podcast that I listed on the COVID episode. Whereas COVID, because this is less than 2 years old, this is new. We know nothing about this. We're only looking at our death rates compared to our infectious rates, right? Like we don't have the whole world to put it up against. So to say that it's more deadly than the flu, well, yeah, but you're not comparing on the same field yet either, right?
really, I think that the real sort of meaty short answer to what you're kind of questioning right now, in my opinion, is I don't understand this. I don't understand this on a micro level or a macro level, why people are so afraid to say I don't know.
Yeah, why
Like
can't we just say we don't know?
if I don't know something, I will say I don't know. If I think I know something, I will tell you exactly what I think I know, and that could be wrong. And then when you tell me that it's wrong and give me evidence to why it's wrong, I say, oh, guess what? You're right. So from someone like me who's wrong all the time about many different things, right? And I freely admit that because I'm human. I never have understood why people just can't say I don't know. And so, for instance, I happen to like one particular show on CNN because I think the host is super balanced. Like Fox always likes to say they're what are they, balanced and fair and balanced or something, and they're neither. But this guy truly will give information on why Democrats suck or why Republicans suck or why Republicans are right and why Democrats are right. So he just floats right down the middle, right? And he happened to have the director of the CDC on his show, and I think her name is something Lewinsky, I believe. Uh, and
Is it Monica? Just checking.
but she was wearing a blue dress. Joke. Anyway, the night before they came out with the new wonderful edict that we've basically won against COVID, and we're scaling everything back, and people can now start to take their mask off outside if they're vaccinated, you know, on the fourth Thursday of every month. I mean, it's just stupid stuff. She doesn't say a damn thing on his show about the fact that they're making this announcement the next day, which to me speaks to just how dumb how they've handled everything is. Like, this is not a birthday surprise. Like, everyone wakes up, guess what? You could take your mask off outside every odd hour on the third Thursday of each month. And that's only if, you know, you're 12 feet away from the nearest person. It's like, everybody finally came together. Those who are anti-vaxxers, those are anti-maskers, those who wear masks, those who got vaccines, and everyone did a collective, huh? Like what? Like, how did you how did you come up with like what we're supposed to do now going forward? So now everybody seems confused as to what is the
If we
5-year plan
weren't
here.
from the beginning, there's no plan, and I think that's
It's
the
all
hard
been
thing.
done.
The it has, and we just I think to spin it positive, you and I were talking the other day, and like we think about when we went to Vegas, which was the last time we went was over 2 years ago. It's almost your birthday. We went, right?
Oh, it was less than 2 years then, because we went in September after
Yes.
that,
So
birthday trip.
2019, but we were like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, we went last year. Oh wait, no. last year like just didn't happen, right? Like last year was just nothing for everybody. And that's probably the hardest realization I had to, or thing I had to accept within myself. And, you know, feeling like this guy in the casino yelling, it's over, it's over, let it be over, right?
He was literally like, COVID is over.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
over.
that was the hardest thing I had to come to terms with is that me, and again, I felt this way, that considering I felt the reaction to the actual scientific data was overblown, that we treated it incorrectly, I felt, again, and that I felt what we were doing as an entire society, what we had chosen for our society, was that in order that some of us, in order that we all live, like none of us live for a year, right? Like, I mean, we basically all chose as a society to just not live for a year. And
Did we
when we
choose
look at the
that?
time, we did. I mean, it's what it felt like to me. If you understand the narrative, and people are like, yes, I'm staying inside, and people are still saying, I'm gonna wear my mask, and that's where also it came up with the idea for our last week's episode about Loki and the Avengers, and are we free? Like, are we actively chose to give away not just our entire freedom for a year, our livelihoods, our, you know, if you didn't lose any, your job, your money, your home, your, maybe you can't quite understand, but we as a society chose all of that, all of our freedoms, give it all up for this. And we're like, but we stayed safe. And they're like, but when you look at the science, it's like, it wasn't that harmful. Like, it just wasn't. And go read the science before you get upset with me. So that's what I had to overcome. I mean, I still have to overcome it, because as I was looking at these vaccines, but my kids, after a year, I live in Long Beach, California, and California is very, very liberal and very, you know, they came out and said they're keeping the masks longer, even though the world said it's okay to take them off. They're keeping them longer, right? My kids just went back to school for the first time in a year, only for 2.5 hours a day. My daughter has to, who's incredibly athletic. She just wants to run outside all day long. Their recess is she has to walk around on a line outside. They can't play with things. They can't play with each other. They can't play with balls. They can't. And I think, what are we doing? And I don't say any of this to my kids. I don't, you know, I think luckily they're okay, but many are not. And we think we shielded the world, but there's numbers of like crematoriums that are coming out in funeral homes saying the death numbers weren't any less this year than last year. Now, maybe it were different things, you know, maybe people, there were suicides, and there were, you know, depression, and then there were people who died of pre-existing conditions that didn't get treated because of COVID protocols, right? But the deaths didn't go down this last year. So what did we do?
You mean up? The deaths
Didn't
didn't
go,
go
no,
up?
didn't go down. Like, we were trying to all hide from life to save people from dying.
Oh, you're saying that
Right.
we didn't
But
protect
people's,
anyone.
no, that's what I'm saying, is like, did we? So I
So
just,
okay, go ahead.
yeah, that's where I sat with all of this. And people are like, well, you don't have to send your kids to school. And I honestly wouldn't have. I stayed home with them. I had never been a stay-at-home mom. I've always worked and playing poker my entire life. And I stayed home with them for this last year. And actually, it's another thing I look at. It's like a blessing. It's like, oh, I got to, you know, be with my kids, and they had school from home. And oh my God, it was a freaking trial with my son. But my daughter was great. And I wouldn't have sent them back this year under these protocols. They have to like stand in line and get this infection test every day, and they have to wear a mask, and they have to, you know, it's just, and they have to teach them how to wash their hands. And they're fucking kids. And then they can't have recess. They got to stand on a line and walk on, you know, and I wouldn't have sent them, honestly, but their dad really wanted it. And you have to compromise when you're a single parent and you're working with. And so I did. So you can say, well, you don't have to do this for society. You can go somewhere. Like, I understand. But I really hope we look at all of this and consider how we want to go forward. Is this really what we want as a society? I hope not, because I don't want to have to go and build my own village and start my own society. I don't want to do it. That's a lot of work. I want this one, but I want this one to work.
I understand. I was just gonna say that. Well, two things. A, I don't know that there's been a topic or a subject that has pulled me in so many different directions. I consider myself a fairly decisive individual. I think I can make a decision and feel good about my decisions. But when it comes to COVID and how it's been handled, so everything you're saying right now, it resonates with me. But I'm in just being honest, I could get on here right now and Zoom with someone else who feels the exact opposite from you. And I'd be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? Yeah, they should have closed the whole world down. They should have just shut everything down.
They did.
So what I was saying early on in this thing, and it's funny because I can remember sitting at your table with a mutual friend of ours playing dominoes and just talking about this stuff when it first happened. Like we must have been a week out of like them shutting down the casinos and all that. And I told you, I said, trust me, this thing is gonna go a lot longer than you think. Cause you were
You
like,
were
oh, it'll
so
be a month
right.
or so. And
Oh,
I was like, dude, we're gonna be looking at this for a couple years, a year or two. Uh anyway, what I was saying with that point was simply I can remember saying early on, and by early on I mean like May, June-ish in there of 2020, like they need to do one of two things because the way they were handling was stupid. You could take your dog to get your dog bathed and shampooed, but you couldn't go get a haircut yourself. You know,
yeah.
it was just dumb
Strip
stuff like
clubs
that.
and liquor stores are open, but your
But
local restaurant is closed. So
and
I
then
mean, if people
somehow
don't
like
question this. That's what I don't understand.
yeah, like Target and Walmart and all these huge stores were like essential, but then you couldn't go to your local restaurant to get to have a meal should you choose to. So stuff didn't make sense to me, and I consider myself a very logical person. And when stuff doesn't make sense, it just bothers me. But anyway, my point was, I was saying we need to handle this one of two ways. Either they need to, honest to goodness, just shut everything down, and by everything I mean anything that is not critical to people actually living, right? Shut it down. Walmart, Target, movie theaters, whatever. Or they need to just let everything be open and let people decide how they want to comport themselves. Because some people clearly are going to go out and they don't give a damn, and they're going to go to parties and they're going to go do this and they're going to go do that. Me personally, I probably would have been pretty careful the way I was anyway, but there sure were days when I was like, I sure would love to just be able to get in my car and go see a movie. There were times when, and as we've stated before, like I love to travel and all that. There were times when I just wanted to get in my car with my wife, with my kids, and take a 2 or 3 hour drive somewhere. And do you know what stopped me? This is going to sound so hilarious. I would always be like, but we can't even pull over and use the restroom anywhere. So how far can we really go?
Man, you're a
That
guy. You don't need to use a restroom.
Yeah, but I'm a guy traveling with three girls.
I know
So
they are screwed. Like this
yeah,
is
so
so
I was so but my point is serious. I literally would think stuff like that. And when you get to a place where you're like, I can't leave my house because there's no place where I can relieve myself, like it feels like things have maybe gone too far. The second thing that I was going to say is you will really find out how you feel about vaccines when you decide whether your kids are going to get one or not. Because I was like first in line almost literally for the day that I got my vaccine and was cool with it and whatever. And then a month or two later now, when they're vaccinating everybody fresh out of the womb, my wife is like, so what do you think about the kids getting vaccinated? And the first thing that came to my mind was, hell no, I'm not taking my kids to get vaccinated. Like it just, that was funny to me because I was just thinking the response to myself versus the response to them getting the vaccine was so just, different. It was different sides of the spectrum.
well, and that's I guess to bring it back and maybe to just end it how we started is that I was continuing to look at vaccines to consider if it's something that society really needed me to have as an incredibly healthy young woman. I don't know, it's 42 young anymore. I don't know, middle-aged woman who walks or runs minimum 3+ miles a day because I have two husky puppies every single day, who eats healthy, although I ate some crappy food during the pandemic, got less healthy during the pandemic, but still very healthy, literally never get sick. Do I need to get a vaccination to make the rest of society feel safe? And no, the answer is just no. The science is not there for this specific virus. No. And people will say, I've seen people like on social media saying, the vaccine save lives. I'm not saying vaccines don't save lives. I'm saying in this specific instance, the science is not there to prove that it's actually necessary. Again, you have to do your own thing. And people say like, oh, nobody's been hurt by the vaccine. The minute I hear someone say that to me I get the look that people probably get when I question a vaccine and thinking I'm an anti-vaxxer. You're just stupid. If you think nobody's been hurt by the vaccine, there's a whole reporting industry, VAERS, VAERS, if you want to look it up. Vaccine incidents. There's over 200,000 incidents already, almost 1,000 deaths already, like over 1,000 deaths. Almost yeah. Oh yeah. Incidents of COVID vaccines. Of course you haven't. They don't talk about it. VAERS, the vaccine. So they created this to pay out for vaccine related deaths and injuries of people because, the vaccine companies are no longer liable. They
never were because it was.
No, they were in '86. Reagan took it away. They're no longer liable.
I was talking about this instance of.
No, yeah. So
yeah.
So again, you're taking a chemical that's not liable. I mean, think about any business in the world. Is there any company, any product creator, anybody who is not liable for something that they make? There's none, right? If somebody slips in your own damn home, you're liable to pay for their health bills, right?
Yeah, sure there is. Gun companies can't be sued.
Okay, so I guess that's like this, like Big Pharma can't be sued if their vaccine hurts you. So they created the government created a separate entity, VAERS, which does pay out. Who pays it? You and me, taxpayers, pay out when people are injured. They don't talk about this. There are injuries all the time, deaths all of the time. So that's why we're like, why don't you just get the vaccine? Like, because there are costs and benefits, and to me, I have to ensure that I understand them both. So if society continues to say I have to do it to get by, I will do it. I will, because if that's the society we have to live in. But again, after doing even more research since we last talked, I really want society to understand. Like, because to me, as much as they think I only see the negatives, because I don't, I see the whole thing. I feel like society is only seeing the positives because that's all they're being told. They're being told sound bites of the positives of the science and not the risks.
And I don't think there's anything that you've said today that I disagree with. But I will say, and just my final thought on all of it is, if there was a way for me to take every dollar I could and place a bet on whether or not you and people who think like you and people who think the exact opposite of you, essentially everybody, is going to get the vaccine, I would put every dollar I had on the fact that everyone's going to get the vaccine, because you will have to get the vaccine to operate normally. And that is not me patting the back of the government saying, hey, good job. That's me saying they're going to make life so difficult on everybody who does not have a vaccine that you will either have to get like some fully legit black market vaccine card where it cannot be disputed if anyone ever checks it, or you're actually going to have to get the vaccine if you ever plan to really go back to work or really travel or really have your kids go to school or and. So right now, this is all sort of anecdotal, but I think there will come a day, and I don't know when that day is, that everyone will have to have a COVID shot.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. I mean,
we
they're
live
trying
in just
to already.
The perfect society to make that happen, believe me. If anyone can make that happen, it's America. We're good at
land of the free.
Yeah. Gosh, I almost said something that was not podcast friendly.
and you almost thought something opposite of what you said in our Loki episode, right? You said we are free, but the more you start to question this stuff,
but you got to remember your freedom exists in many different sizes and shapes and volumes, right? So I gave an example on the freedom episode of, well, if somebody came to take my wallet, I don't actually have to give it to them, but there are consequences for every action. You know, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So your freedom is not just this vast expanse of liberty. Your freedom is in sort of micro scenarios where you choose to exercise what Nicole Jurgens wants to exercise. So if you say, hey, I'm not getting the vaccine, well, I would also place a bet that nobody's going to throw you on the ground and inject it in your arm either.
Well,
right? But if you choose to make that decision, I hope you love those walls that you live within right now, because I can see you being, you know, metaphorically confined to them. I mean,
again,
really.
and again, I just question, like, it's a slippery slope in society, but clearly we like it. We like not being free, because clearly look at the last year. I mean,
It's not that we like it, Nicole.
I think we do. We wanted it. We all yelled for
No,
that. We want
it's
this. We
not that at
wanted to
all.
all not live
No,
last
it's
year.
not that at all. It's literally this conversation we're having right now just almost feels like it's a tandem conversation with the Loki episode, because the real problem is that 95% of people are sheep.
I don't
All
know
the
that they're
people that you're
sheep.
talking about,
It's just
no,
that they want to feel safe, but they don't
no, they
understand that
want to
feeling
they
safe
want
and
to
being
feel like
safe.
they're not outside the pack. They don't want to feel like they're doing something that's going to have eyes on them, because all of the people that you just referenced by saying, you know, we must love this or whatever, no, I beg to differ. I bet if you had some machine that could read their minds, it would tell you that most of them didn't love it, but most of them were unwilling to do something any different. You might be that 1 in 100 million that says, hey, I mean, I would love to freaking go to Target, but I'm not going to go to Target anymore if they're not going to let me in without a vaccine card.
Listen, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to start my village. We're going to have our own rules, our own society. I'm over it. Over it.
Am I
Anyways,
going to
let's
have to pay rent, or how's that work for
no,
me?
I'm going to be so rich. You all can come live there for free. Listen,
Oh,
we don't even need money. Wait, money is just a construct anyways. Like, it's
now
uh,
that is an episode.
let's shut it down before people get tired of listening to me talk about freedom, because
I know I am.
but I did want to say that, like, I did more research, and again, I'm not anti-vaxxer. I will get it if I have to. I just want everyone to be as informed as I feel like I'm trying to make myself, and it just doesn't add up. But anyways, that's my 2 cents from neither a scientist nor a doctor or anybody important, so maybe it means nothing. So don't get your undies in a bunch if you don't agree with me.
You're important to me, friend.
Thank you, friend. All right, and with that, we will see you next time.